Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dragalia Lost video. I asked you guys what kind of video you guys wanted to see from me regarding Expert High Dragon Trials, and most of you guys wanted a HP requirement video, so that's what I'll be covering today. I'm also going to talk about where to start and in what order you should complete these high dragons in, since I know some of you guys feel like you can't clear a single expert and are having a hard time progressing. By the way, anyone that is asking about builds and what characters to use, I highly suggest that you look at the time attack ranking feature that is in this game. In there, you'll find all the meta characters and all their builds that people have used to beat the Expert High Dragons. It's a very useful feature, so please use it. But yeah, anyways, let's talk about HP thresholds now, alright? Don't give me any credit for these values. I never find these values on my own. Somebody makes these and then they get posted all over the place and in my Discord too, so I'm just relaying this information to you guys on YouTube. But whoever made these, big props to them. So let's start with High Midgard. I'm going to explain how to read this chart. In the row that is colored in green, there's type, element, HDTP, WP, and different percentages for HP. Type obviously refers to melee or ranged. Melee and ranged characters have different base defense values, which is why they have to be separated. Basically, melees are tankier than ranged characters. Under element, there's advantage, neutral, or disadvantage. The only rows that you should pay attention to are the ones that says advantage, because those rows will give you the values for, in this case, flame characters. Prometheus is under the element tab as well, and he's there because Prometheus gives 15% win res to a flame attuned user. HDTPWP stands for High Dragon Trials Wyrmprint. When it says MUB, it means this row is for characters running a max unbounded High Dragon Trials Wyrmprint. When the column is empty, then it obviously means that you are not running the High Dragon Trials Wyrmprint. Lastly, the HP values on the right represents different minimum HP thresholds that you will need in order to survive the opening blast. So for this chart, for most of you guys, you'll want to look at these four rows right here. With the High Midgard print equipped, melees are required to have 2077 base HP, while ranged needs about 2596 HP. Without it, then you'll need about 900 more HP, which is kind of difficult to reach without proper augments. If you aren't using the print, then you'll most likely need a Lance or Axe ally on your team for their defensive capability, which would drop the minimum HP threshold to 2535 for melees and 3168 for ranged. Keep in mind that there are some offensive Wyrmprints out there that grant win res, so you aren't completely defenseless if you opt to go for a double DPS Wyrmprint build. For example, Flash the Genius grants strength and win res. It's a very popular offensive print to use for High Midgard trials if you can't survive without a defensive print. The strength buff on it does require you to keep a combo count of 15 or higher, so it's not going to be a print that is good on all type of characters, only the ones that can combo easily. So it's pretty good for sorties like Marth, blades such as Makoto or Reina, Cerise, Dagger, and Wand characters. Expert High Midgard has about 3 times the amount of HP compared to standard, so make sure that you are coming into Expert with a max unbounded weapon. Max unbounded core or elemental weapons do work, but preferably you will want a max unbounded void weapon with the High Dragon Bane ability, or at least a 0 unbounded High Dragon weapon. This applies for all the High Dragons, not just High Midgard. A max unbounded void is always better than a max unbounded core for High Dragon trials. If you are able to craft the new High Dragon weapons, then that'll be the best weapon to use among the 3. Now, High Brotel, there's a couple charts for this one. There's a chart for core weapons, which represents 5-star tier 3 elemental and High Dragon weapons. Then there's another one for void weapons. The reason why there's a chart for void is because the void weapon for High Brotel grants 20% defense, so that's going to help reduce the amount of HP needed by about 400 to 600 HP, depending on the character's weapon type. If you plan to play a melee character, then you can run double offensive prints with one of them being Crystalline Envoy. From my experience in pubs, almost every melee character runs Crystalline Envoy instead of the High Brotel print. Ranged characters will have a harder time making the switch, so most will be required to stick with the High Brotel print. Now, there is a way to reduce the HP threshold even more by having a Choco Daniel on your team. Choco Daniels refers to a Daniel equipped with the Chocolatiers Wyrmprint. This build allows Daniel to activate his 20% defense buff right off the bat. I think this is basically required to have for Masters High Brotel, but not so much for Expert, even though most teams prefer Choco Daniels than not. Expert High Brotel's HP has a similar leap as High Midgard's. She actually has less HP than High Midgard, but it's a lot harder to get damage in on Brotel because of the Hellfire phases, so you'll still need to be on top of your game and well equipped for this fight. I would suggest using a max unbounded void weapon for this fight, but considering the fact that the easiest High Dragon weapon to farm is the water one, you should definitely craft that one first before attempting High Brotel. Nearly everyone I see in pubs is running around with a High Dragon weapon, so it's going to be tough for you to get accepted in pubs if you do not own one. Next up is High Mercury. This is by far the easiest High Dragon among the 5, at least for standard and expert modes. HP requirement is still relatively low for this fight, but the fight isn't about meeting the HP requirement, it's more about having enough DPS. There's only like 4 characters that people run in pubs. There's Victor, Wedding Elisan, and Null. Those 3 are the staple 3, then sometimes there's the occasional Linyu as the 4th DPS, but most teams prefer having 2 Victors, 2 Elisans, or 2 Nulls. All the melee characters that I listed are able to run double DPS worm prints. They don't need the High Mercury print. I believe Null is the only one that needs it, but it also depends on what kind of dragon that she has equipped. Now, High Mercury has about 5.4 million HP, which is more than double than the previous 2. She may seem like a very tanky fella to take down, but it's actually not that bad if Victor can consistently apply 3 bleed stacks throughout the whole fight, and if the Elisans and Nulls can maintain the uptime on their buffs and debuffs. High Mercury should be the High Dragon that everyone starts out with. You do not need a High Dragon weapon for this fight. You can complete this with a maxed out Void or a 5-star core. I personally completed High Mercury the first time using a 5-star tier 3 core weapon on Elisan, so it's definitely doable with core weapons. I think having at least a maxed out Void weapon is only important for Victor since he'll be the main damage dealer on the team. It's a bit iffy for Elisan, but Null can definitely get away without it. Alright, on to High Jupiter. There's 3 charts for this one. We have one for core weapons, Void, and 10% light resistance. High Jupiter hits really hard in expert. With that being said, you are going to need all the defense that you can get, so I do not recommend using a core weapon. Instead, use a maxed out Void, or if you have enough stats, then use a High Dragon weapon. Even with the innate 7% defense ability given from Void weapons, ranged characters still requires 2754 HP to survive, and that's a hard HP threshold to reach. This is why there's a 10% light res chart, because ranged characters like Galacleo, they need to run both the High Jupiter print and a max unbounded Lucas Prank print in order to survive the opening blast. Melees don't have to run Lucas Prank, they'll be fine with only having the High Jupiter print along with a DPS print such as Resounding Rendition. High Jupiter received the biggest stat boost among all the High Dragons. He has 4.4 million HP, so not only does he have a crap ton of HP, but it's also difficult in trying to reach the HP requirement for this fight. This is why High Jupiter is considered as the most difficult expert High Dragon. Definitely do this one last. It's very hard to get accepted in pubs if you don't have Galacleo. If you don't have Galacleo, don't worry, I do know Heinwall is viable and he's actually quite commonly seen in pubs. Yasu and Nally are like the only 2 melees that I see get accepted in pubs so far, so yeah. Pub standards are pretty strict for this one, so good luck with this one. Last but not least, we have High Zodiac. There's also 2 charts for this one for core weapons and another for Void. Starting with core weapons, with the High Zodiac print equipped, melees need 2301 HP and ranged needs about 2876 HP. Melees can meet that HP threshold pretty easily, while ranged DPS will have a tougher time, which is why ranged DPS characters are almost non-existent in pubs, so I definitely do not recommend investing in a ranged DPS for this one. Pub standards are quite strict for this one as well. You will get instantly noped out rooms if you are seen with a core weapon equipped, so please I recommend farming Nidhogg and make yourself a max unbounded Void weapon. And the chart for Void weapon is right here. The Void weapon gives 8% defense, so that reduces the HP requirement by about 200 HP, about 2130 HP for melees, and 2663 for ranged. Surviving the opening blast isn't really a problem here. Pubs prefer Void weapons because they are more worried about having enough DPS. Zodiac has 3.4 million HP and some of his attacks disrupt your team's DPS output, so timing out in this fight is quite common if you are running with a normal team comp. Most of the team comps you'll see in pubs is the speedrun comp consisting of Yachio, Fleur, and 2 Galiudens. So if you want to have any luck with Zodiac in pubs, I suggest that you build one of those 3 melee characters because that's like the only strat that pubs are looking to do right now. Alright, so that's all the HP requirements for all the expert High Dragons. Now let's move on to the segment where I'll just briefly discuss about the order in which you should clear these High Dragons in. So my order is High Mercury first, then High Brunhilde, High Midgard, High Zodiac, then High Jupiter. If you summon a Null, then you can complete High Mercury quite easily. She doesn't take that much investment and it's not like it's difficult to play as her. She basically took Lowen's role. Null is required to bait all the spits and homing balls, and while doing all that, she spams her skill 1 for that AoE strength buff. That's basically all she does, and I mean, I know people that have beaten expert High Mercury with a Null equipped with Strybog, so She's definitely the most budget-friendly character to use in all of Expert High Dragon Trials. Once you farm 18 High Mercury tails, then go ahead and craft your first Water High Dragon weapon. I recommend either the sword, lance, wand, or staff depending on what character you want to use for High Brunhilde. Elisan, Fjorm, Lily, Summer Solaria, and Daniels are the popular characters that I see in pubs, so pick one of those guys. Elisan is the most budget-friendly one, and she's really good, so go for the lance if you don't own any of the other characters, but do keep in mind that it is kind of hard for her to get into good pub rooms due to her low might. Once you farm 18 High Brunhilde tails, then move on to High Midgard. The popular characters that I see in here are Makoto, Cerise, Emma, Mim, Valentine's Hildegard, Berica, Ramona, Student Maribel, and sometimes Reina and Marth. Go ahead and make a High Dragon weapon for one of those guys. Now listen to me on this one. I do not recommend using a sword for this fight unless you are like really good at using swords, because it's extremely stressful to play the beta role as a sword. Not only do you have to bait spits, dashes, and Trident Tempest every second of the fight, you also have to output great damage. Axe characters have an easy time baiting because their axe combo is just 5 taps. Swords have to C2 or C3 force strike the entire fight, so it's a little bit harder for them to manage everything. Now obviously beating High Midgard doesn't transition well into High Zodiac or Jupiter, so this comes down to what characters you own in your barracks. I only suggest transitioning into Zodiac because I feel like that fight is a lot more approachable than Expert High Jupiter. Jupiter teams basically requires 5-star characters and very specific ones, so it's a lot harder for players to get into that one. On the other hand, High Zodiac's top meta units include Yachio and Fleur, who are both 4-star characters. Like, even if you do have Galacleo, Jupiter pubs are usually looking for big Galacleos with like 6.8k to 7k might, equipped with Shinobi or Mirashiden, a max Void or High Dragon Wand, and max Augment, so it's still not easy for them to get accepted even as Galacleo. But yeah, you guys can do whichever one that you want, honestly. It depends on the characters that you have, but I would recommend High Zodiac first, then Jupiter afterwards. And that pretty much does it for this video. If you guys have any questions about anything regarding this topic, please type away in the comment section below and I'll try my best to answer them. I hope this video was helpful, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.